Welcome to the video on Section C, Part 1, Expectations. My name is Alexis Alexander and I'll be your co-pilot for this important section of the OEI course design rubric. I'm here to help you be the best you can be when it comes to providing effective and valid assessment in your online course. Hang on tight, I promise a fun ride. The two elements of assessment covered in Section C are expectations and assessment design. In this video, we will focus on expectations. First, let's take a look at the rubric and how best practices in this area are defined. Assessments match the objectives. Learners are directed to the appropriate objectives for each assignment. Rubrics and/or descriptive criteria for desired outcomes are provided. Models of good work may be shown, for example. Instructions are written clearly and with exemplary detail to ensure understanding. Let's start with the first bullet point. Assessments match the objectives. It might seem obvious, but before you can make sure that your objectives and assessments match, you need to have a very clear idea of what the objectives are for your course. If you don't have a clear idea of how your assignments meet the objectives for your course, you will want to clear that up at this point. In fact, when you are developing an online course, that can be a good time to take a fresh look at your content and the types of assessments that you choose to design. We will be talking more about assessment design in the next video. However, you may already be using your student learning outcomes as your guide for developing assessment activities, or you may have compiled course or assignment objectives in some other way. In terms of the effectiveness of the types of assessment that you are putting in your course, there are various ways that you can measure appropriateness. Just from a common sense perspective, ask yourself, what do I want my students to learn? Or what types of feedback, answers, or projects could students show me to demonstrate that they have learned the course content? Some teachers use data collection, for example, correlations between success on the midterm and success of the final, or positive relationships between various types of assessment in the course in general. This is obviously a very important element, this matchup between your course objectives and your assessment activities. But just as important is how you convey your course objectives to your students. Which brings us to the second bullet point. Learners are directed to the appropriate objectives for each assessment. There are lots of easy ways to meet this standard. List objectives in your syllabus and also in the FAQs or in the introductory block of your course. Consider writing your objectives in a more student-friendly format. Weekly or topic objectives can be helpful to students also. Once you have done all that you can do to make sure that students understand the objectives for your course and for your assessment activities, you can go even further to help students meet these goals. This brings us to the third bullet point. Rubrics and/or descriptive criteria for desired outcomes are provided. Models of good work may be shown, for example. As the old expression goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and in the case of providing students with information to help them to do their best possible job completing assessment activities, you could paraphrase this to, an example is worth 1,000 emails. So, how can you achieve this goal? There are many rubric creators out there. For example, Rubistar and iRubric are two that come to mind. You may be using an LMS, learning management system, that provides rubrics already. There are also probably millions of rubrics for every possible type of assessment activity available online, and these are only a Google search away. Of course, you can always make your rubrics from scratch, but that's a lot of work and sort of like reinventing the wheel. Another option, and one that I've used very successfully in the past, is to ask students who turn in really excellent assignments if I can use their work as an example in a future class. Students love to be asked, and future students can relate to the work of a fellow student. So this is a win-win situation. So now we come to the last bullet point in the list. Instructions are written clearly and with exemplary detail to ensure understanding. As teachers, you might say we do our work by talking and explaining and giving verbal directions and examples. However, sometimes when it comes to putting all of our content online, we have to be reminded that all that explaining and all that directing that we are used to doing ad hoc needs to be translated into a medium that students can access and understand online. What I'm trying to say is that often when teachers first start teaching online, they forget to write enough explanations and directions. How can you avoid this problem? Don't be afraid of redundancy. It's okay to put explanations, examples, directions, and instructions in more than one place, as long as you put this information in logical places, that is. For example, you might put the directions for an assignment in the syllabus, in the assignment itself, and also in the checklist for the week. This gives the student more than one chance to find that important info, which can be helpful for students who struggle with getting orientated. In any case, don't rely on only the syllabus to fill this need. Students may or may not remember to constantly check and recheck the syllabus as the course progresses. Write your instructions in clear, easy to understand terms. You may have spent a lot of time creating SLOs, for example, but if these are written in academic ease, they may be hard for students to understand. Consider reframing your SLOs into student-friendly objectives. This suggestion applies to any directions or explanations that you create for students. Also, when creating explanations for online assessment, you may want to include some basic info for students on the format of the assignment, due dates, how to upload the assignment, and how the student can get support, either technological or pedagogical, to complete the assignment. As a final note, if you seek feedback from your students at the end of your course, and I hope you do, this is a good area to ask students about. How did they feel about their assessment experience in your course? Getting this type of feedback from students can help you to bridge any gaps that exist in meeting these goals.